a short-term jump in the unemployment rate for a similar reason, in that those discouraged people become encouraged, and they actually begin looking for work. So you have to look beyond the jobless rate to determine what is happening in the local or regional labor market. We are adding jobs in the private sector. The national numbers, they just released the April numbers. It was about 268,000 private jobs were added nationally. That was the best job number in about 5 years for the nation. But at the same time we're adding private sector jobs, we're going to be seeing, and we are seeing, and will continue to see, belt tightening in the public sector on all levels, the federal, state, and local level. Kathy, next slide. Now these are the latest jobless rate numbers for the region, for the state, for the nation.
Frank,
and
I'm
yes.
sorry to interrupt, but this is where we were going to have our first survey question.
Yeah, let me get through just a little bit of explanation about this, and then we'll do the survey question.
Okay.
What you see here is just an improving unemployment rate situation over the past year on all levels, which is good news. But I would have to insert here that all the numbers that you see for March of 2010, the 8.2% jobless rate numbers, and right down the count, each of those numbers is the highest unemployment rate in the history of those geographies for the month of March. So we are comparing a change, current change, from a historic high. We have records going back to 1990. And to kind of get back to that tight labor market question, if I looked at Dutchess County and I was to tell you what the lowest unemployment rate in the history of March was for the county, it was 2.9% back in 1990. That's a true labor shortage situation back then. And all the other geographies that are on this had unemployment rates ranging from 3 to 4%. So Andy, if you want to do the polling question, now would be a good time.
We can do that while I'm setting that up. We did get a question that came in, so maybe you can respond to that when we're polling. And the question is, how much is underemployment an issue, and does that skew the numbers to be a bit misleading? So I'm going to launch the question, and then I'll let Frank answer the question. I'm going to launch the poll and then let Frank answer that question.
Okay, the underemployment question.
Do you need me to repeat the question?
Not for me.
Okay.
The underemployment question is a great question, and it's a question that it's very difficult to answer in an official statistical capacity. But certainly underemployment, our unemployment rate simply measures the employment status of residents of a given geography. And if you're receiving pay for an hour of work, a part-time job or a full-time job, you're considered employed. So if you're an engineer that is working at a restaurant to make money, you're one and the same. You're technically underemployed, but from a statistical standpoint, you're considered employed. So underemployment really is an issue, particularly during a bad economic time. We've gone through one of possibly the most severe labor market recession that we've had in history, or at least in recent history. I can't go back 70 years or something like that, but that's a time when you see, if you had a measure of underemployment, it would be at a very high level.
Okay. We've got some good response from the polls. Let me close it. And there's the response from the poll question that we had. Okay. Can you see that, Frank?
Yeah, that's pretty optimistic. That's showing about 44% plan to add staff, 44% expect no change. So
that's pretty good, isn't it, Frank?
On the whole, that's favorable. So hopefully that will hold true, and a year from now we could continue to report you some good numbers.
Okay. while we were talking, a question came in. At what percentage, at what unemployment percentage, should I begin to expect difficulty in attracting workers?
Well, that's a very difficult question in that, if the unemployment rate gets down to the 5% range, that's considered to be a tight labor market, but then it also depends on the type of worker and the skill you're trying to hire. There are certain occupations and industries that have a tight labor market now, even though the economy is relatively soft. I mean, there are some skills in the healthcare area that are difficult to fill. There may be some technical jobs with engineering and technicians that are somewhat difficult to fill. So sometimes just the supply-demand situation affects the ability to recruit workers. If you're looking for entry-level workers that maybe only require basic skills, foundation skills, a high school diploma, I would say when it gets down to the 5% range, the labor market may be tight. Now is the situation where you may be hiring experienced workers who just can't find a suitable job for some of your entry-level positions. So some of you may be in a situation where your labor market situation is still pretty good. But I guess what I'm anticipating is what I talked about a few slides ago, is that we're anticipating private sector growth, but at the same time we're anticipating public sector cutbacks. So it's not going to be a uniform situation where we're going to see a significant decline in the jobless rate. Even nationally, we don't expect this. It's going to be a very slow, meticulous process before the labor market really becomes tight, at least from where we sit today. Okay?
Yep.
Next slide. Now this is we track industry trends month by month and over the year, and we have historical data, and this is the Dutchess Orange area, as I mentioned before, is considered to be a metropolitan area. So when we release statistics on job numbers, we're releasing it we do it for the combined two-county area. And what this is showing is that the green numbers on the top are the job generators, and in education and health, it's only private schools and colleges. There's some hospitals, nursing home, doctors' offices in there. In professional and business services, we're talking about services such as legal, accounting, engineering, design, computer services, personnel supply companies. Personnel supply is an early indicator of whether the economy is improving or not, because a lot of businesses hire from personnel supply companies before they will put on full-time workers. So we try to keep a pretty close eye on that sector specifically. Leisure and hospitality, mainly hotels and restaurants, and manufacturing, which saw a modest gain, and that's certainly good news. Computer and electronics products are really important to the local economy, and I'll talk about that a little bit later. On the bad news side, though, the red numbers are where we've seen losses. So all in all, our job count is just about on par with where it was last year, because the good news, expanding industries, were offset by the bad news, contracting industries. Next slide. In terms of this, I just wanted to show a slide of how the local economy has changed dramatically in the past 20 years. And I really just wanted to focus on each of these pie charts. The red portion of the pie chart reflects goods-producing industries. And goods-producing is primarily manufacturing and construction jobs. So what we see in this slide is that the goods-producing sector, which comprised about 1 out of every 4 jobs in 1990, up to the current, we're about at 1 in every 10 jobs is in goods-producing. And that 11% of the goods-producing sector locally That's like right in the middle. New York State